Alright folks, 1,001 apologies there for starting you off just a little bit late here with this display, with this race. For some reason we're having some serious technical difficulties with our screen capture settings, but it seems that we are back and running to normal right now, so let's see if we can bear with it. Hopefully it stays pretty steady, and today we have another good day, another good race for you here today. So I was told that we were frozen on the screen while I was doing introductions, so we'll get right back to that in just a moment for you. So in terms of points here, guys, there are going to be a few names missing, as like we said earlier, some drivers have been brought up from the secondary league. So there are going to be some names that are missing from this point sheet here. We'll still include them later on, but so far as the points stand, especially after the last 3 races of this CR4 Championship, Parallel 117 is going to be tied right now with Adrian Senna for 57 points. RTR tight right behind him with 41. Vornax with 34. Mad Max with 30. ID 78, his racing partner, right behind him with 28, who is tied actually with TGT Fab GT Lap 1, who I believe unfortunately is not racing or possibly no longer with us. That is not confirmed. I will confirm with you guys later to see if he's still part of the group. Not exactly sure. Lucas 22 has 24 points. And there are a few other racers that used to be part of this league here, and unfortunately they are no longer part of the league as well. So those points will not be mentioned. In the secondary league though, a few racers that are joining us here today, we will mention their points from their league. Mike's V-Town 1984, he's actually at the top of the secondary league with 50 points. Dopey NLB right behind him, also tying him with 50 points as well. Racers that are also joining us is Loves Hell, he has 31 points. Mad John with 30 points in the secondary league. And I believe there's still one, that's right, Svenzuin 26 with 35 points as well from the secondary league. We're just going to let these drivers go ahead through their outlap, not exactly something to be paying too much close attention to yet. It's once they get these things back around the track, that is going to be the laps to be looking at. Right now at the front you have Tyke here. RTR Tyke, like we mentioned before, I believe he is in 3rd place for running, or 2nd place, depending on how you look at the points. Parallel 117, one of the fellow Ferrari drivers. Lucas 22, just behind him there, in the other Lamborghini. RTR Adrian Senna in the other Ferrari. Vornax in one of the Citroens. I think it's going to be, there's about 3 of them on the track as usual. Svenzuin 26 racing one of the Honda NSX models, I believe. ID 78, one of the other Citroen drivers. Mad Max, 3rd in that lineup of manufacturers. And Loves Hell is actually going to be driving in. Let's take a short look. I think here's when we can see the models of vehicles. Oh yes, so Loves Hell I believe is also going to be in a Ferrari. Dopey NLB is going to be in a 650S. I wonder what manufacturer that is. Not exactly familiar with that, I do apologize. The V8 Vantage of course is going to be the Aston Martin, I believe. And we also have a BMW M4 joining us here. Oh, so this is going to be the McLaren, folks. Dopey NOB is going to be racing in a McLaren. Mad John, as you can see there, in an Aston Martin. And here we have the BMW M4 of Mike Skid, P-Town 84. Nice custom Red Bull livery slapped on that BMW. RTR Tyke still on an outlap. I think all of these racers went back out again, or back. Yes, many of these racers are switching tires, I believe. Many of these racers probably not happy with the medium compound it is, I believe, that most of these drivers are switching off of. So we're going to be waiting just a little bit longer again, as some of these racers are still on outlaps. Mike Skid, I believe, stayed out on the track. He's on his first flying lap, as he does not have the outlap label over his time. 28 seconds into his first flying lap, 24 minutes left in this qualifying race session for all the racers. Mad John just behind him on an outlap, although seems to be already racing, this gentleman. RTR Tyke, RTR Adrian Senna on outlaps as well. Lucas 22, Erlen 117 also on his outlap. Vornax as well. ID 78, you can add him to the list as well as Venz 126, RTR Mad Max, and Loves Hell as well on their outlaps. Dopey NOB in McLaren on his outlap as well. And back to Mike Skid, who is the only racer right now on his flying lap. Although he is slowing down, not exactly putting down. Well, thought he was slowing down. Does seem that he is going for it here. We're gonna stick with him for this flying lap, see how he performs, see which time he puts up first on the leaderboard to start challenging the other racers here today. Switching over quickly to the cockpit view so you guys can see a more first-hand look at what these drivers see when they're driving. I believe all of our racers race in the cockpit view. Not every racer races with a racing wheel, however. Not sure what this driver's preference is. Maybe a wheel, maybe a controller. We will find out later for you. Just under 3 minutes into his first flying lap. Let's wait for the rest of these guys to head out of theirs. Everybody else still on their first outlaps. Just about done with their outlaps though. As they are ahead of this driver here, Mike Skid, V-Town 84. Many of the drivers ahead now, I believe, are going to be going into their flying laps. So after Mike Skid here finishes his flying lap, we're going to get on to watching the other drivers, see how they're doing with their setups and with their vehicles. Down he goes this straight to put down a first lap time of 4:04. 6.5 at the moment is going to be the time to beat. RTR Adrian Senna now here on his flying lap. Well into it now. Completing that first long straight, who I believe used to be just one straight. Just one big long straight way back in the day there actually. These chicanes that you're going to be seeing these races go through, that first chicane that you saw RTR Adrian Senna go through, and the next one that he is approaching right now, actually before did not exist. I don't exactly remember why they changed it. I think they changed it just for the sake of not having such a deadly long straight for these drivers to go through. Perlin 117 putting down purple sectors so far. He's just going 2 minutes into his flying lap. You can see some more racers behind him there. RTR Lucas 22. Vornax. Fellow Citroen racer right behind him. RTR ID 78, who seems to have picked up a 1 second slowdown penalty. I wonder why there. Loves Hell. Also on his first flying lap of the day. Svenzu in 26. And a Honda there, the yellow Honda, also in his flying lap. Dopey NOB, the only McLaren out in the track representing there. With that yellow AM sticker that we are not used to seeing in this league. Happily welcome it though, as he is getting flashed by the lights of RTR Tyke right behind him. Although both drivers are entitled to stay where they're like for their flying lap. Unless he is, of course, massively slowing down RTR Tyke, although it does not seem that way. RTR Tyke now opening up to get right past OBNOB. Off he goes there. Did not want to stay behind him for very much longer. I wonder why. Not in the race just yet, although most of these races are known to get quite competitive in their qualifying session as well. RTR Mad Max right behind him in his flying lap as well. Mad John in the only Aston Martin. And the only BMW out here as well, Mike Skye, as we saw him earlier do the first flying lap of this session. Going into one of the sand pits there. Perlin 117, just about done with his flying lap. And right now he's going to be the man to beat. The 351.454. RTR ID 78 just behind him. Just behind him for just a moment because Loves Hell comes out of nowhere with a 352.173. ID 78 just behind him with a 354.089. Vornax in P4 at the moment. One of the other Citroens with a 354.28. RTR Tyke, as he passes the finish line in that Lamborghini, bumps himself up to P2 with a 351.50. Vornax currently in P6. 354.281 is going to be his lap times. Venzu in 26 right behind him as well with a 359.13. Dopey NOB almost 4 minutes flat. 4 minutes and 0.103 is going to be his lap time right now, as he's already 30 seconds into his second flying lap with 15 minutes left in this race session. Just about time for around 3 or 4 more laps, I believe. Although some of these racers did also go into the pits as well. For example, RTR Adrian Senna, I believe, is on another outlap as he did switch tires yet again. Mike Skye not really improving too much on his first flying lap there with a 404.865, although he does have plenty of time still to improve, and I believe he is one of the few racers out there on racing medium, so that is also something to look out for. It's going to make a big difference in terms of grip. RTR Lucas 22 think his best lap time right now is going to be 3:58.095, which was his second lap. He's on an out lap at the moment, and he just picked up a half-second penalty, which he just burned off. Back to King of the Hill at the moment, RTR Perlin 117. Once again with that fastest lap time of a 3:51.454. That is going to be the time to beat, as he is out on his second flying lap. 2 minutes and 30 seconds into it, just about done. RTR Tyke putting down there a purple sector as we tune in over to him. And that orange Halloween inspired livery there. I believe he has a scarecrow on his front bumper. Very nice to see. Perlin 117 sliding around there. He is just about done with his flying lap. RTR Adrian Senna just behind him, I believe, completing his out lap as he did switch tires like we said before. And let's see which lap time Perlin 117 puts down as he passes this straight here. Is he going to improve on his lap time? No, he will not, but he will still stay so far in P1. Let's take a look over here at RTR Tyke. I think he's going to be one of the next drivers here to put down a fastest lap time. And never mind, Loves Hell comes out of nowhere with a 3:50.81 in the other Ferrari. RTR Tyke just passing the straight as well. He puts down a 3:51.42, dropping Perlin 117 2 positions now. Loves Hell coming out with the fastest lap time at the moment, 3:50.81. RTR Tyke now in P2 in that Lamborghini, 3:51.23. And Perlin 117 is a man of danger, in danger of getting bumped out of the podium positions right now, at least. He has still that 3:51.454. Watching ID 78 right now. I think RTR ID 78's livery of this Citroen today is probably going to be the favorite one for me here today, although RTR Tyke's Halloween inspired one is a close second. Do enjoy seeing that scarecrow on the front bumper, on the front hood of that Lamborghini. Vornex just ahead of Loves Hell, one of his flying laps. His best one was his lap 3 with a 3:54.28, keeping him up there in P6, just behind the other two Citroens. Nice to see all three of the same manufacturer vehicles right behind each other. Just outside of the podium positions with 10 minutes left in the qualifying race session. Svenzo in 26 in the only Honda, improving on his last lap times. Now he has a 3:57.614 as a personal bester, keeping him up there in P3. Mad John just behind Svenzo in 26's lap time there in P9 right now with a 3:57.70. Topiano and a McLaren dropping down there to P10 right now. 4 minutes, almost 4 minutes flat, still going to be his best lap time. Mike Skid, did he hit the wall there as we tuned in over there to him? Didn't have the chance to see him. Now in racing softs, although he is now on his out lap. Might be going a little wide there on purpose. RTR Tyke switching tires as well as RTR ID 78, Svenzo in 26. Trying to maximize the performance of their vehicles in the last few minutes of this qualifying race session. RTR Adrian Senna and Perlin 117. Getting a little messy there in that first chicane. They made it work as best they could. RTR Adrian Senna now stealing away that P1 position from Loves Hell. Perlin 117 also answering the call with those last flying lap times. RTR Adrian Senna is now going to be the man beat with a 3:48.32. Perlin 117 just behind him, also breaking that 3:48 mark with 3:48.52. Loves Hell now in P3, still with that 3:50.81 that got him P1 earlier. RTR Tyke unfortunately getting bumped out of the higher positions, now in P4, still with that 3:51.423. And the three Citroën still right behind each other, back to back on the leaderboard as well, at least with a P5, a P6, and P7 lockout, if you will. Svenzo in 26 still in P8, Mad John still in P9, and Dopey NLB in P10, Mike Skit in P11 respectively. Let's look on to see if any of these racers decide to answer the call. Try and challenge those three racers in the podium positions. Guys like RTR Tyke are usually seen on the podium, but now that we have new additions, it is mixing it up at the front of the leaderboard and even in the middle game. So hopefully a more interesting race to see compared to even the other ones that we have given to you here. RTR and Senna and Perlin 117 just about to finish their next flying lap. Let's see if they improve on them. And they do. RTR and Senna breaks the mark now to a 3:47.63, improving by almost a second, if not a whole second possibly, on his last flying lap. Perlin 117 not able to break past that 3:48 mark. Still holding on to P2 though. Loves Hell is not going to be marking down anything on the leaderboard now, as this is just going to be an outlap. Not going to count for anything. Same thing can be said for RTR Tyke, as they are almost done with their outlaps. So we will tune into them later on. RTR ID 78, as well as Mike's, I believe, is also in the pits there. You can see him right next to him. RTR Mad Max just about to finish lap number 6. One of the flying laps for him here. Let's see what he puts down here. He puts down a 354.778, keeping him in P6, but not exactly improving on his last best lap time. That was a 352.80. Vornax and Ventu in 26 out on outlaps, as well as Mad John, Dopey NOB getting in a little bit into the gravel there on the straight in the McLaren. Still putting down a personal best though, 359.90. Just breaking that 4-minute mark, holding on to P10 now. Mike's still in P11, still in the pits there. RTR Atron Senna getting a bit of a slowdown penalty. He'll be burning out that penalty promptly, I'm sure. RTR Parallel 117. Just over 2 minutes into this flying lap. Seems to have hit earlier though, as we can see that little diagram that you guys can't see just because of the banner there. But the diagram I can still see there just show that he had some damage to his rear bumper and his tire, although that is gone now due to the settings we have implemented in this race. So any damage that they pick up only affects them for a certain amount of time, and then it goes back to normal. So still adds a bit of a challenge, but at least it doesn't put them out permanently for these races. Loves Hell putting down personal best sectors, still in P3. Just over 2 minutes 20 seconds into this flying lap for him. Maybe a Ferrari lockout 1-2-3, which will be something to see here today at this race. RTR Tyke in the Lamborghini in P4, just behind them all. ID 78 still in the pits there. Mike's, I believe, leaving the pits now. Maybe going out for one more outlap, one more flying lap. Dopey NLB in the McLaren. On another flying lap here. RTR Jinsana sliding around that turn there. Not exactly improving on his last lap time, which was very impressive. Slowing down quite a bit there, now putting down last lap there was a 4:01. But I'm sure those penalties did affect him. Parallel 117 going into the pits. Maybe one more tire change, knowing he has one more chance to put down one good flying lap just before this race session is done. Loves Hell improving slightly with a personal best of a 350 now, 0.25, holding on to P3 still there. RTR Tyke about to finish this flying lap that he's on particularly. Although he's already 3 minutes and 56 seconds into this flying lap. Quite a substantial difference from the last lap he put down. That was a 353. And he still has pretty good wear on his tires. He may have just been slowing down and waiting to put down one more flying lap here. racers, even in real competitions, tend to do that strategy, so that way other racers don't exactly have the opportunity to answer a new fastest lap that gets put down there. And the time remaining, I believe, is now going to be overflow time. Just over 4 minutes left. You saw the final lap marker, I believe, showing up there for RTR Tyke. And final lap markers showing up for several other racers as well, I believe. Perlin 117. Just about done with his outlap. Let's see if he has a chance to put down one more flying lap before this session is done. RTR Adrian Senna still trying to improve on his fastest lap time in P1. Just about done with this one. Let's see if he does get to improve on it, although he is already out of his personal contention with 354, 356, 357 is going to be what he puts down. I think he's done for the day for this qualifying session. He is happy, very much happy with that 347.63. Perlin 117 gets that final lap marker. Let's hope he still gets a chance to put something down. May not. And I don't think he will there, folks, unfortunately, for Perlin 117, although he does have a P2 there. 348.52 is going to be what got him there in P2. Loves Hell in the third Ferrari with a 350.25, locking out P3. RTR Tyke refusing to have a Ferrari lockout. He steals away P3, kicks Loves Hell down one position, getting P3 just before the session is over. 350.100 is what got him up there to P3. No other racer here, I believe, putting down any more final laps except here for Matt John. See if he can improve on his fastest lap here. I believe he's going to be staying there in P8 for the beginning of this race. Venzu in 26, holding on there to P9. Zopiano will be in the pits. Out there in P10 still. And Mike's in the BMW at the back of the pack there was P11 to begin the race. We're just gonna let the timer go down, and shortly we will begin this race here at Circuit de los Arts, the very famous Le Mans track. folks, I am getting reports from some of the heads of the league that apparently I think we're going to be doing a quick restart, unfortunately, because RTR Lucas 22, if you haven't noticed, had to leave the session very quickly. He was having some issues with his connection there. So we're going to restart this, and hopefully everybody will be in their respective positions. But Lucas 22, I believe, is going to be starting from the back of the pack, but we're going to be giving him an opportunity to join us here still before we begin the race. And as you can see, it does appear that Lucas 22 RTR Lucas 22 has joined us here again. You guys are going to be tuning in for yet again another endurance race of an hour and a half. That is the standard for this championship league. RTR Adrian Senna, the host, just making sure that everybody is on the track and ready to go before he begins. There he is, the guy that we were waiting to join us, RTR Lucas 22. Welcome back there, sir. Unfortunate that you did have some internet connection issues, but happy to have you here joining us regardless. And in just a few moments, once we make sure that all the racers are back out on the track ready to go, no more connection issues, we're going to be beginning the actual race and getting down to business. And the final has begun there, folks. All the other racers in their respective positions that they earned in the qualifying race session. RTR Lucas 22, the only addition in the back of the pack there. And off they go there, folks. RTR Tyke, as usual, getting one lovely start there. RTR Adrian Center already trying to catch up to Impairland 117 just behind him. Loves Hell already nudging away through Vornax. RTR Lucas 22 quickly jumping up from the leaderboard, moving up there from P6 to P5 now, passing Loves Hell. Lucas 22 was an amazing start there. RTR Tyke as well in the fellow Lamborghini, still in P1 there, fending off the Ferraris just behind him of RTR Adrian Senna and Perlin 117, although they are getting some way more straight line speed than that Lamborghini. RTR Tyke very intelligently drafting him immediately. Vornax top of the Citroens right now in P4. Loves Hell just behind him in the Ferrari, passing him with a flat out straight line speed there. Lucas 22 in the other Lamborghini, although he does hit the wall there, starts backing up the other racers behind him in the midfield. Lucas 22 getting a penalty, burning that off very quickly. Vornax just behind him, as well as RTR ID 78, the other Citroens, taking advantage of that penalty that Lucas 22 just had to serve. Moving back up there just behind the Ferraris and the Lamborghini of RTR Tyke that did lose that position to RTR Adrian Senna, possibly on that second straight, I believe. And RTR Tyke also getting a half-second penalty for what I'm not exactly sure. But we know quite well that sometimes the penalty system of this game isn't exactly the most accurate. Although he is serving that penalty now just before he goes into that turn in P1 still. And losing that again. Never mind, as Perlin 117 goes very wide into the sandpit there, losing several positions. Lucas 22 also going wide in that Lamborghini, losing several positions as well. The battle at the front there is still going to remain there, just between RTR Tyke and RTR Adrian Senna, who's already quickly catching up to him. A lot of midfield action up here though. Vornax still in P3 right now, getting chased down by the Aston Martin of Mad John, a pro amateur who is certainly impressing right now at the moment in P4. RTR ID 78 in that white livery of the Citroen, right behind his partner, or right ahead of his partner, RTR Mad Max. Somebody else spinning out there. Svenduin 26 in the Honda, the yellow Honda NSX model, now dropping down there to P12 after that spin out into the sandpits there. Lucas 22 still in the back, as well as RTR Perlin 117, going very wide after those straights there. Mike's getting the BMW still in P10. They're getting passed currently by the Ferrari of Perlin 117, now chasing down Loves Hell in P8, the other fellow Ferrari driver going on the inside there, quickly securing P8, although Loves Hell does not seem to want to give up that position that easily. RTR Tyke, I believe, is going to be leading one lap at least here of this track today. And yes, he will. He did lead the first lap of the race here of this Circuit de la Sarthe. 1 hour and 30-minute race. RTR Adrian Senna just about a second and a half behind him, already chasing him down. Vornax in the Citroen in P3, about 4 seconds behind him, getting chased down by that Aston Martin still of Mad John, a Pro-Am racer, all the way up in P4. Definitely somebody to watch out for there, as he did split up the other Citroens. Mad Max in ID 78 also getting split up there by Perlin 117, making up quick ground after he spun out earlier on in the first lap. Dopey NOB battling it out there with Loves Hell, McLaren versus Ferrari. Loves Hell's making the overtake on the outside there, although he did just get a penalty. And he did follow the rules. He does quickly burn that off. Dopey NOB getting back up to the P8 in that McLaren due to the penalty that he just had to serve. RTR Lucas 22 chasing down the Ferrari there of Loves Hell. Svenduin 26 still recovering after that spin out earlier on. Mike's in the BMW, still in P12 at the back of the pack right now. Back to RTR Tyke. Still in P1. Is passing the famous Viraj Demosane. RTR Adrian Senna sticking as closely behind him as he can there in that Ferrari. You can see the Aston Martin of Matt John in the background there getting a little bit out of shape, exiting that turn, losing a little bit of time there, and giving the advantage there for RTR Mad Max. So we get an overtake on the outside of that straight. Mad John intelligently again getting right on the back bumper of Mad Max to get that, maximizing that draft, trying to re-secure P4 as quickly as he can. Parallel 117 still in P6 right now, battling away, defending, sliding out a little bit there on that curve, defending from RTR ID 78, who's right behind him there. The third Ferrari out in the track there in P8 right now, Loves Hell, getting chased down once again by the McLaren and that Lamborghini of Lucas 22 and Dopey NLB. Parallel 117 catching up there to the Aston Martin of Mad John just behind him, giving him a little bit of a bump draft, a bit of a NASCAR move. We just saw there Mad John doing a pretty good job of defending, making that Aston Martin as wide as possible for that Ferrari, sliding out both of the racers. That turn just a little bit. About to finish. One more lap it is, I believe. And Parallel 117 finally getting past Mad John there. ID 78 maybe smelling a bit of the action there for himself, although he did just have to serve a penalty which pushed him back there, giving a chance for Loves Hell and Mad John to stay ahead of him. RTR ID 78 now bumping down to P8 due to that penalty he just had to serve. Now he's going to have to be defending from Lucas 22 and Dopey NOB in the back positions there. Third lap of the race, and RTR Tyke is still holding it down there in P1. RTR Adrian Senna still chasing him down. About less than a second between them as they start approaching those first straights there. Approaching that first chicane, breaking up this very long straight. So many overtakes happening on these chicanes and these straights over the years, during the 24 hours of Le Mans races. Very, very amazing races to watch. If you ever have a chance, make sure you check those out on YouTube. You can watch them in parts. Beautiful races to see. Adrian Senna losing a little bit of time there on that last straight and that chicane, although he is putting down purple sectors for himself, but that did seem to put him a little bit farther away there from RTR Tyke, at least for just a moment. Vornex still in P3 there, putting down personal best lap times for himself. You can see RTR Mad Max closing in on him ever so slightly. Loves Hell still in P5 there. Mad John in the Aston Martin earlier in P4, now dropping down to P6. Parallel 117 battling it out there with Lucas 22 and ID 78. Ferrari, Citroën and Lamborghini battling away there, as you can see the McLaren of Dopey NOB getting out of shape, exiting that turn. Svendu in 26 still in P11, as well as Mike's in the BMW in P12. RTR Tyke now having to worry about RTR Adrian Senna just behind him. A lot more now, especially as they are approaching these straights. RTR Adrian Senna getting an excellent draft from that Lamborghini going on the inside. RTR Tyke making sure he defends on the entrance of the next turn very wisely, cutting those curves as tightly as possible. Both racers here. RTR Tyke knowing he is under attack, very much so. Is he going to be able to fend him off for just one more lap? Let's find out. So far he does a pretty good job. Entering lap 4, still holding on to P1. RTR Adrian Senna putting down the fastest lap time of the race session with that chase right now with a 3:53.002. As the rest of the field comes around the finish line as well. Bornex and the Citroen, as well as RTR Mad Max and P4, who just got a half-second penalty. I believe he is serving that now. Yes, he is. Just burned that off. Lovesell still in P6, getting chased down by his fellow Ferrari driver of Perlin 117 on a mission to make up for lost time after that big mistake he did on the first lap of this race. Going down the straights and the chicanes once again. RTR Adrian Senna maybe getting a little desperate at this point. As we are still pretty early on into this race, but racers like these are definitely the ones that want to be in P1 so they can have complete control of the pace in this race, because at this moment RTR Tyke is pretty much going to be the guy that runs this right now, although RTR Adrian Senna does have a couple of tricks up his sleeve with pit strategies, especially after the first pit in a track like this and with a race as long as this one as well. RTR Tyke right now putting down personal best lap times for himself in that Halloween inspired Lamborghini. Lap 4 of race number 4. Pretty close cluster of the midfield there, as you can see. Loves Hell, Mad Max, and Perlin 117 opening up just behind Loves Hell there. Loves Hell trying to defend from both races. Perlin 117 goes a little bit wide there, a little bit out of shape. Scratches against the wall there. Mad Max taking advantage and securing P5 thanks to that mistake. Loves Hell now getting away on this straight here. Seems that RTR Adrian Senna's starting to fall back a little bit there from RTR Tyke. Almost a second and a half between those racers as I just took a look. Loves Hell comfortably in P4 there now. Earlier was under attack. Perlin 117 got a little bit out of shape. Mad Max falling back a little bit, now defending from the racer he overtook from that slight spin out. Perlin 117 gaining back that position in the same lap after his mistake, and already chasing down his fellow Ferrari driver there of Loves Hell. The other Lamborghini of Lucas 22, who started in P12. Now in P7, moving up a few positions. Pretty good start off for him there. I believe in the first lap he did move all the way up to almost P6 or P5. So very impressive first lap for him, of course. RTR ID 78. Another Citroen driver just behind the Aston Martin of Mad John. Dopiano being a McLaren still in P10 there. Svenzu in 26 in P11. And Mike Skid still rounding up the back of the field in P12. RTR Tyke still managing to fend off RTR Adrian Senna in that Ferrari. About a second in between those racers there. Vornak's now under attack for P3 as Loves Hell is getting quite close to him even on that chicane and sticking behind that back bumper of the Citroen as they go into the second straight. We all know that the Ferraris have very good straight line speed, especially on this track. So let's see if he can break away from the draft, and it seems that Loves Hell is already going to be doing that as they start approaching the second chicane. Loves Hell securing P3 at the moment, but let's see if he can definitely put the icing on top of that overtake as they enter the chicane, and it seems that he did. Vornak's wisely giving him the room, but still staying closely behind him, as I'm sure he wants to regain that position as quickly as possible. Seems that a lot of these racers are going for long stints for this race, which makes sense as it is one of the biggest tracks in the world. Very, very long track. Nürburgring, off the top of my head, is probably the only one that can be larger than this one. Nürburgring is massive, as we all know. But most of these racers are going to be going for pretty long stints here, trying to last as long as possible, as we are just over a minute and 10 minutes left in this race. Tire wear and fuel is definitely going to be something to look out for. You don't want to be halfway through a lap or even 3/4 of a lap through and realize that you're not going to have enough fuel to finish. That is not going to be something that these racers will want to have happen to them. Which, if I'm correct, has also happened probably once or twice during the 24-hour Le Mans races. Unfortunate, but it is something that happens throughout the history, especially when you have a race that has been going on for so long. RTR Tyke entering lap number 6 in just a moment. And also stealing away the fastest lap of the race so far from RTR Adrian Senna was a 3:52.93. And managing to keep RTR Adrian Senna just about a second behind him, although RTR Tyke did just get a half-second penalty, which he did just serve. Parallel 117 and Mad John, the first racers of the day to go into the pits, although their tires weren't exactly worn out that much. Parallel 117 and Mad John possibly trying to gain an advantage in the future when these racers go into the pits, although this is going to be pushing them back significantly far from the other racers in the midfield. Loves Hell now quite comfortably in P3. RTR Adrian Senna closing in on RTR Tyke after that penalty that he had to serve.
Let's see if RTR Tyke can fend him off. Though Adrian Senna is putting down purple sectors at the moment on this straight. RTR Tyke managing to keep that Ferrari just behind him after those straights. Moving down the midfield there. Loves help putting down purple sectors as well in the other Ferrari. Vornax and the Citroen falling back a little bit, but still holding on to P4. Another fellow Citroen driver just behind him, RTR Mad Max, who may become prey of RTR Lucas 22 in just a few moments, who is not that far behind him. Dopey NOB in the McLaren in P7 now, ID 78 in P8. Svenzuin 26 still in P9, Perlin 117 in P10 after those pit stops. Majon after the pit stops as well in P11. Mike's gets still in the back of the pack, holding on to P12 there. RTR Mad Max still managing to pull away from RTR Lucas 22 ever so slightly there. Trying his best to keep it above a second and a half gap between himself and the racer behind him. RTR Tyke trying to do the same over here, just about a second in between himself and RTR Adrian Senna in P2. RTR Tyke going into the pits. RTR Adrian Senna following him just behind him. Let's see what the man in P3 does just behind him. Yes, he does go into the pits as well, followed by Vornax, the first of the Citroens. Mad Max doing the same, as well as Lucas 22. ID 78 would be the next one to approach the pits. Let's see if he follows along and does the same thing as the first 6 racers ahead of him. Seems that he's going to be doing it, as he does seem on the side of the pits, and yes indeed, he goes into the pits as well. RTR Adrian Senna securing P1, exiting the pits. RTR Tyke just behind him there now, winning the battle of the pits there. Exiting that Dunlop curve, I believe. Loves Hell still holding on to P3, getting chased down there by another Citroen now of RTR Mad Max. Vornax dropping down to P5 after those pit stops. Now under attack from Lucas 22 in the Lamborghini. Was already chasing him down as they were exiting the pits. Lucas 22 staying right behind the bumper of the Citroen there of Vornax, trying to break away from him on the straight, and it seems that he will not. Side by side almost. Definitely side by side now. And right now, just before they go into the chicane, he's going to be in P5. And he's going to hold on to it so far. Seriously breaking from Vornax as he tries to keep up there with Lucas 22. Lucas 22 going side to side. I don't know if he's trying to warm up the tires or trying to get rid of the draft there for Vornax. Not really wanting to give him an advantage on this straight, although Vornax already going side by side with him there. But on this chicane, he's going to be entering from the outside. And it's going to be advantage Lucas 22. As he still holds on to P5 as they enter and exit that chicane. Vornax still tightly and closely behind him in the Citroen as they approach yet again another mini straight. Going down the line very quickly, RTR Pearland 117 gaining a few positions actually from all those pit stops from P11 I believe now to P7. Mad John as well, so maybe they did have something in mind that I was not thinking about. Lucas 22 still holding on to P5 after that sharp turn there. Mad Max is going to be top of the Citroens right now, chasing down the Ferrari of Love's Hell. RTR tight just about a second and a half from RTR Adrian Senna, who stole away that P1 position after the battle of the pits there. Lucas 22 losing that spot and possibly about to gain it right back there from Vornax. Quite a battle there between these two racers. Citroen against Lamborghini. Bit of a penalty there for Mad Max, you saw, as I believe he just burned it off before he went in there. Lucas 22 not giving away that P5 position so easily. Same thing can be said for Vornax in that maroon Citroen. Less than 3/10 of a second between these two racers that we're watching here. Watching them closely for a reason, surely, as they've been exchanging those positions this whole lap. Pearland 117 still in P7 back there. RTR ID 78 in the white Citroen getting chased down there by Mad John, who's about a second and a half away from him there. Svensson 26 just ahead of Dopiano B in the McLaren. Mike's in P12 still in the BMW. Back to Lucas 22 still chasing down Vornax. The battle of P6 and P5. Staying as closely behind him as possible. Hoping, wishing, praying for a mistake from the driver ahead. If not, patiently waiting for the straights that they are about to approach. That's where you saw the exchange of position the most between these two racers. Here we go for another battle of the straights between both of these guys. Let's see who comes out on top on this particular lap. Lucas 22 getting just past him there as they enter the first chicane. He has the inside, he has the bit of the advantage there. A little bit messier than the last lap, but he did get it to stick. Vornax already chasing him down on the second straight already. Vornax still just behind him there. Maybe taking it easy now, keeping in mind the wear of his tires and how much longer is left in this race. Just over an hour left in this session now. 8 laps into this race. Lucas 22 getting a little bit out of shape, giving a chance for Vornax to close in on him there. Are we going to be watching another overtake in just a moment? Let's find out. And we do. Lucas 22 getting out of shape and paying the price for it. Although he is side by side with Vornax yet again and quickly stealing that position back. RTR Mad Max, as you tuned in on him, burning out yet again another penalty there. Lucas 22 going very wide on there, possibly hitting the wall. And once again, I think he's going to be able to he's going to be giving up that position to Vornax after that spin out, after that little hit. So, very surprising how many mistakes is coming out of Lucas 22 today, but also very surprising how quickly he regains that position from the Citroen when he does make those mistakes. We'll let these racers battle it out for just a moment. Let's get a bit more screen time to the other racers. Perlin 117 still trying to get back up to the top positions. After right now he is in P7 and he knows he will suffer quite substantially in terms of points, as he is right now currently tied with RTR Adrian Senna, who's in P1. But Perlin 117 will not be getting the usual amount of points, obviously, if he finishes in P7 where he is right now. Though he is closely closing in on the racer ahead of him, especially due to those battles that Lucas 22 and Vornax have been producing. RTR ID 78 still in P8 in the white Citroen. Mad John in the Aston Martin in P9s. Vento in 26 still in P10. Dopian will be in a McLaren, now in the back of the pack there in P11. RTR Adrian Senna still in P1 and regaining the fastest lap time of the race, almost matching his qualifying fastest lap time of 3:47.96. Very impressive to see a qualifying lap time during a race session. RTR Tyke falling back a little bit there from RTR Adrian Senna, but there's still much more time left in this race. Yet again, another Ferrari in P3 loves hell. He's going to be just about 15 seconds away there from RTR Tyke. Mad Max, the top of the Citroen right now in P4. Vornax still getting chased there by Perlin 117 now, who has made the overtake while we're going down the list on Lucas 22. So Perlin 117 gaining a little amount of points for every single overtake that he gets. The higher on the leaderboard right now, the better for him, so he can still be some sort of competitions, at least for the podium positions between P1, 2, and 3 in terms of points. Finishing even in P6 right now for him, I'm sure it would give him a lot of ground to cover in the next race if he were to finish in this position at the end of the race. Perlin 117 for some reason getting a penalty that he is burning off. Lucas 22 might be able to take advantage of that, as he is now closing in on him as they exit that turn. The Lamborghini behind him smelling opportunity. But Perlin 117 is doing a pretty good job of keeping his calm, holding on to P6. He's about halfway through the field right now, and about 50 minutes left in this race. I think it's safe to say that after the next shuffle of pit stops, he may have an even greater advantage if he manages to maintain this pace, or even greater. see Pearlin 117 as they go into lap 10. Flashing his lights there, trying to confuse, trying to distract Vornax there in the Citroen. He's right up there behind him now. Down and uphill they go before they approach the straights and the chicanes of this famous Le Mans track, where Pearlin 117 may most definitely have the advantage of straight line speed with that Ferrari. Side by side they go, Pearlin 117. Some serious late braking into that chicane. Either that or Vornax was braking a little bit too early there. Pearlin 117 gaining yet again another position. That's going to be more good news for him now in P5. Going up the line up there for just a bit. Seems that Mad Max is going to be stuck between a rock and a hard place soon if the racers behind him start catching up to him. You can already see them in the background, some of his camera views, that he's trying to chase down P3 ahead of him and loves hell. RTR Tyke still a few seconds behind RTR Agent Senna right now. Falling back after that pit stop that we witnessed earlier. Pearlin 117 already trying to flash his lights and get a reaction from RTR Mad Max, even though he is quite ahead of him there. Let's see if we witness yet again another overtake in just a few more moments. Starting from the back of the pack, just to give you a bit more updates there. Dopey NLB in the McLaren, going very wide there as we tune in on him, on that turn specifically. Won't exactly blame that on tire wear. Still spinning out, or sliding out even out of that turn. Venzu in 26. In the yellow Honda, doing pretty good for himself right now. Personal best lap time of 3:57.088. Mad John in the only Aston Martin still in P9, RTR ID 78 right now, putting down a personal best for himself, 3:52.370 during this race. In P8, Lucas 22 chasing down Vornax yet again, the Citroen just ahead of him, his challenger of the day. It seems Pearlin 117, 4 seconds and a half there away from Mad Max, but picking up a half-second penalty. Let's see if that affects his chase for P4. Lucas 22, just over a second away from Vornax. Might be seeing yet again another challenge as they approach the next straight.
22 possibly just not close enough just yet. Although with that gap, with just over 45 minutes left in this race, definitely room for opportunity for himself as well as a few other midfield racers, just based off their pace and their positioning at the moment. Parallel 117 surely on a mission today, spinning out on the first lap, going from P11 all the way back up here to P5 at the moment. Still tuned into Lucas 22 here, as I do sense another challenge between these two racers in just a few moments time. Vornax and Lucas 22 just about 30 seconds away from finishing one more lap there. Definitely under attack there from Lucas 22 in the Lamborghini now. They are sidewinding through these turns. Vornax still trying to make that Citroen as wide as possible through those curves. RTR Mad Max in P40, you can see him going into the pits. Going for another early pit stop there for him. Mad John in Parallel 117 doing that before. Parallel 117 gaining a position from that pit stop as well, now in P4. Vornax in P5 and Lucas in P6 now. After that pit stop from RTR Mad Max. Vornax now going to be the top of the Citroens at the moment. RTR Mad Max coming back out of the pits in P7, just behind Lucas 22, and just ahead of his fellow Citroen racer of RTR ID78 as he goes very wide and just through the sandpit, getting relocated, and back away he goes. Unfortunate for him. Hopefully that does not cost him too much time, and maybe he can make up for that mistake on the straight that they are approaching. And speaking of straights, Lucas 22 getting the most out of these straights on this lap, catching the draft of Vornax. Vornax still getting the priority line into that chicane. And down the second straight of this track we go. Lucas 22 just a little bit behind him, farther back behind him than the other straight. Although this chicane is going to require different positioning if you want to try and get an overtake before you get in there. And Lucas 22 was looking at it at the inside, but thought twice just last minute. Decided to give that spot up there for Vornax to keep going. Lucas 22 flashing his lights away. Still trying to get a reaction from Vornax ahead of him. Lucas 22 putting down personal best due to this chase we're watching. And back to the guys at the top of the pack, RTR H and Senna
Still in P1 on lap 12. Just over 40 seconds left in this race. 40 minutes, sorry. RTR Tyke still in P2, but both of these racers have not yet pitted. Although many of these races we are starting to see them run quite low on fuel, so I do expect some pit stops happening very, very shortly. Wondering who's going to be the first to begin that frenzy. Loves Hell still in P3, Pearland 117. Third of the Ferraris right now in P4, scratching the wall there. Very aggressive ever since he's done that spin out on lap number 1. And speaking of pit stops, we're watching Adrian Senna go into the pits as well as RTR Tyke right behind him. Loves Hell also joining the other two racers ahead of him in the pit stops. Pearland 117 doing the same thing, followed by Vornax and Lucas 22. RTR Agent Center, first one in, first one out, of course, followed by RTR Tyke, who has gained some seconds after that pit stop. That's going to be music to his ears. RTR Mad Max coming out P3 after all that battle. No, my apologies, it's still going to be Loves Hell coming out in P3 in the Ferrari. Mad Max possibly taking P4. Yes, he is, according to the leaderboard. Pearland 117, however, right behind him. Desperate to regain that position for those points. Lucas 22 winning the battle of the pits against himself and Vornax, gaining one position, exiting those pits. Mad Max and RTR ID 78 as well as Venzuin 26 and Dopiano B going into the pits. Let's see what comes out of them. And RTR ID 78 is going to be the one coming out a little bit victorious here, resecuring P8s. Back out he goes. Mad John, the next one to come out in P9. Let's see who's next to come out between Svenzu 26 and Dopiano B in the McLaren. Seems P10 is going to be going so far right now to Svenzu 26. Dopiano B is still going to be rounding up the back of the field in P11. RTR Adrian Senna still just about 5 seconds ahead of the Lamborghini there of RTR Tyke. RTR Mad Max proudly in P4 in that Citroen. Though maybe seeing some challenges coming up soon there from Pearland 117 behind him. Who is doing everything he can to try and get back up on the podium and still be relevant in the points battle. Mad Max is not going to make it easy for him though. He's just about a second ahead of him. Pearland 117 sliding out, going a little wide into the entry of that turn. Catching the draft closely behind RTR Mad Max. Just a few tenths in between these racers now. Lucas 22 in an opposite battle, getting chased down slowly but surely by Vornax in the next Citroen RTR ID 78. comfortably in P8 at the moment. The other racers respectively still in P9, 10, and 11. RTR Agent Senna and RTR Tyke completing their first lap after that last pit stop, as well as Loves Hell and the next Ferrari going by there. Perlin 117 managing to get that overtake as we're going down the line up there. Gets back up there to P4. And in just one lap, this guy was wasting no time to regain that position. On lap 14 here of the Le Mans track, Circuit de la Sarthe. Just about 37 minutes remaining in this session. No battles developing at the moment, but some close gaps might mean that there will be some battles coming up shortly in the laps to come here. Especially with many of these racers with brand new tires. Most of these racers on softs as well, I believe. It's going to be a much faster stint. RTR Tyke managing to shave off about a second in that last lap. Loves Hill so comfortably in P3, 19 seconds away from Tyke, 7 seconds away ahead of Perlin 117, who was still on a mission to get back up to where he was at the start of this race. RTR Mad Max going quite wide there and shortening that gap between himself and Lucas 22 from 1.5 to an overtake there for Lucas 22. Maybe looking at P5 quite shortly, although they are going side by side at the moment. Mad Max not making it easy for that Lamborghini, and Lucas 22 pulling away in the final moments before they approach the next turn. Scratching the wall, but going home so far on this lap with P5 is Lucas Mas 22 in the Lamborghini. They're going to be surely trying to close down that gap now between himself and Perlin 117. Ahead of him, that 8-second gap now that he's looking at. Though he's still going to have to be looking at his rear view mirrors at least for the next few laps with RTR Mad Max not exactly pulling away from him there. Vornax as well trying to join the fun just behind him, a few seconds away in the next Citroen, followed by RTR ID 78. Mad John, Svenduin 26 and Dopiano B still 9, 10 and 11 respectively. Dopiano B trying to get out of the final position now as he is chasing down Svenduin 26 in that McLaren. Just a few tenths separating these racers at the moment. Although Dopey NOB did just scratch the wall, that might be a little bit of an advantage time-wise for Sventu in 26. That did cost him about 2/10 of a second, that scratch against the wall. Dopey NOB may just have to patiently stay behind him and wait again for those straights to try and gain that advantage again, as he does seem to be pulling away from him now. That's going to be about a second gap after that mistake from Dopey NOB. RTR Mad Max still trying to stay closely behind Lucas 22, who took away that P5 position from him just about a lap ago. Trying to pull up side by side with him. Lucas 22 seeing that, closing the door on him, making sure he gets good positioning before they go into that chicane to make sure he can defend where he needs to defend before they even go in there. RTR Mad Max putting down personal best sectors as he is chasing down the man in P5. Once again trying to get up side by side with him. Let's see if he can secure that this time. Lucas 22 still has the optimal track position to enter that turn. And defends quite effortlessly, to be honest, on that one. RTR Tyke now seeing the rear bumper of RTR Agent Senna, the man he's been trying to catch this whole race. Just over 30 minutes left in this race to go. We're going to be looking at about 6 or 7 laps to go. Lucas 22 appears to again possibly have had some internet issues, as he seems to have fallen off the roster completely. Parallel 117 now in P4. Sorry, well, Parallel 117 was always in P4, but now he is just about 10 seconds ahead of RTR Mad Max. He's trying to get some ground there on Lucas 22. Probably weird when your competitor disappears on you, quite literally. Vornax now trying to give him some competition, closing in from behind him, about 2.5 seconds away from his fellow Citroën driver. ID 78 and Mad John in P7 and P8. Venduin 26 still holding off Dopey NOB, and that McLaren is still about a second away from him. Staying pretty tightly behind him, although not quite close enough to make anything out of it just yet. Dopey NOB still staying within that 1 second, 1.5 second gap away from Svenzu in 26. Doubt he wants to stay in the back of the pack this whole race. Although these racers are doing a pretty good job of staying, keeping a pretty good pace up there with the big boys in this race. So very happy once again to have them here joining us from the secondary lead. Mad John certainly impressing in her first laps, going all the way up there to P4 in the opening moments of this race. Pearlin 117 closing in ever so slightly there on Love's Hell. He was 7 seconds away from him earlier. He is now just about 3.5 seconds away from him. You can now see him in his camera view. Probably even more exciting for Pearlin 117, who has been desperately trying to chase down those podium positions ever since lap number 1. Pearlin 117 costing himself some serious time there as he went very wide. Giving a chance for Love's Hell to pull away from him just a little longer. Pearlin 117, pretty good pace throughout the whole race. If you can look at the right side of the screen, you can check out his lap times. Pretty consistent, giving his mishap in the opening lap. It's pretty good concentration from this racer to try and make up for lost time, quite literally. Love's Hell now 2.5 seconds ahead of him. Pearlin 117 cleaning up that mistake rather quickly. Love's Hell definitely is going to have to start looking at his rearview mirrors quite shortly. Just about 1.5 seconds splitting up these two Ferraris as they start approaching the straights and the chicanes of this track. Love's Hell still managing to keep him behind him on the first straight. Pearlin 117 definitely covered some major ground on that straight. Both of these racers trying to get everything they can out of their vehicles. Love's Hell pulling away again on the second straight. Pearlin 117 was having trouble there. I wonder what it was. Mad Max and Vornax just about 15 seconds away from them. RTR ID 78. Significant amount of space from his fellow Citroen driver, just around 45 seconds away from them. Mad John, Sven 26, and Dopey NOB still at the back there. Love's Hell still managing to keep Pearlin 117 away from him, still in P4. Back down to about a second and a half in between these racers. Love's Hell definitely now looking behind him. as he navigates through these turns up ahead. Pearland 117 going a little bit wide on that last exit, still maintaining a decent amount of space in terms of gap. Closing that gap down even still by a few more tenths. See if he can hold on to that just before they approach the straights and the chicanes. That would be quite the advantage. Further Ferrari behind Loves Hell. Pearland 117. Who I'm sure does not want a newcomer to take away that podium position from him. Although Loves Hell is definitely a new racer and somebody to look out for. Certainly impressing on his first race here. About 0.5 of a second between themselves now. Pearland 117 unfortunately suffering a half-second penalty. That's going to be a major game changer as he was just behind this racer. It's going to be something that he's going to have to burn out very, very soon, which he just did. And that's going to be giving yet again another opportunity for Loves Hell to get away, costing Pearland 117 some serious tire management as he was chasing him down so hard. So that's going to be something for Pearland 117 to keep in mind now after suffering that half second penalty. ID 78 going into the pits here in that white Citroen livery. Off he goes again, brand new tires. A lot of fuel to go along with that. He's now going to be about second and a half away from that Aston Martin of Mad John in P7. See if he can close in on him, especially now that he has brand new tires, probably a lot more grip than what Mad Max has to offer at the moment for himself. RTR ID 78 trying to close that gap between Mad John and himself. Gain one position more in this race. Try and make that a 1-2-3 for the lineup of these Citroens. Mad Max in P5, Vornax in P6. Only thing separating them now is that Aston Martin once again of Mad John, who's about a second away from RTR ID 78s down this short straight before they go into the next turn. RTR Tyke trying to go into the pits a little bit earlier than the leader, looking for maybe some possible kind of undercut, I believe is what I'm looking for. Loves Hell also following along into those pits. Different tricks coming out now with the last few minutes remaining in this race session. Maybe the difference between a few positions. As it stands now though, Pearland 117 is going to be in P2. So a very, very amazing display of determination for this racer since the beginning of this race. RTR Tyke coming out of the pits. Loves Hell, Vornax and Mad Max entering the pits just behind them. RTR ID 78 managing to get that overtake on Majon, though Majon is still closely behind that white Citroen, not making it too easy for RTR ID 78 just ahead of him. The racers ahead coming out of the pits there. RTR Adrian Senna still in P1, Pearland 117, his original Ferrari partner, still in P2. Now after that shuffle of the pits in the midfield and with the podium positions, RTR Tight now in P3. Love Cell dropping down to P4, Mad Max in P5 now, Vornax just behind him, a fellow Citroen driver in P6, RTR ID 78. The last of those Citroens finally gaining that 1-2-3 that they were looking for. Gaining that overtake there on Majon. And both racers not going into the pits on this lap particularly. Svenzo in 26, approaching the pits as well. Will we be seeing a pit stop from this racer? Let's find out in just a few moments. And it appears we will be seeing a pit stop, as well as, never mind, Dopiano will be taking advantage of Svensson going into the pits. He's going to try and gain that P9 position over that Honda that has been ahead of him this whole time. RTR ID 78 now pulling away from the Aston Martin there. Vornax still in P6 going down the straight. Same thing can be said for Mad Max in P3. Love's Hell still in P4. RTR Tyke, sorry. About 6.5 seconds away from Pearland 117, who decided to stay out for now in that Ferrari. Holding on to P2 at the moment. 34 seconds ahead of him is going to be RTR Adrian Senna, who at the moment has no competition behind him for now, although he still has to go into the pits, which is about 15 minutes left in this race. If we'll be seeing, yes we will, a pit stop now from the leader, RTR Agent Senna, who at the moment is about 30 seconds away from his competitors. Pearland 117 closing in as quickly as possible, but he still also has to take a pit stop as well. Will he go into the pits now, or will he try and get a little greedy and go for another position? Although that will also give an advantage to RTR Agent Senna as well as RTR Tyke, who would be racing out there behind him with much fresher tires and a lot more fuel. And I don't think Pearland 117 is going to be taking that risk. He's going to be going into the pits to try and stay in the podium positions where I think he wanted to at least go back to, sliding a little bit in there into the pits. That may have cost him a little bit of time as he went in there. RTR Tyke regaining that P2 position. RTR Agent Senna still 20 seconds away now, losing about 10 seconds in that pit stop that he just took. RTR Tyke trying to chase him down still. Pearland 117 still in the pits, now getting released as Love Hell flies past him. Never mind, Pearland 117 managed to get out of the pits just before Love's Hell passes that finish line. So Pearland 117 has only lost one position after that pit stop, 14 seconds away from RTR Tyke, who is 18 seconds away from Mr. P1 RTR Adrian Senna right now. Third Ferrari added to this race of Love's Hell, doing a pretty good performance here in P4 at the moment. 17 seconds behind him is going to be RTR Mad Max and his fellow Citroen drivers of Vornax and RTR ID 78. Mad John, the only Aston Martin out there going into the pits at the moment. Dopey NLB, I think, is going to be the last racer. It still has to go into the pits. Has a 20-second advantage, more or less, I believe, from that yellow Honda of Svendu in 26. Let's see if he can maintain it as he goes into the pits. One way to find out is I believe we're going to be seeing Mad John exiting the pits very shortly. Svendu in 26 coming in hot, chasing him down, desperately trying to regain a few positions. Mad John coming out, still holding on to P8. Dopey NOB just about done, I think, just quickly refueling. But that's going to make him lose that position yet again. Or they're going to be coming out pretty much side by side, these racers. Dopey NOB. Svendu in 26 just behind him there now. Just about a second behind that McLaren. Let's watch these racers maybe seeing some kind of a battle, especially as they approach the straights and the chicanes once again of this beautiful track here, the Le Mans track. One of the oldest operating tracks as well. Dopey NOB still managing to pull away from that lone Honda behind him. Keeping an eye on the back of the pack battle that we're witnessing right now. Slowly developing, still maintaining just about a second gap, second and a half between himself and the yellow Honda there, Svendu in 26. While Svendu in 26 still trying to close in on Dopey NOB. I think it's quite obvious who the Bumblebee driver of the day is going to be going to. Definitely would be going to this man here, RTR Perlin 117. Very terrible start, unfortunate start for him after the straights and the chicanes on lap number 1, spinning hard into the sand pits, losing basically all his positioning, and coming back right now from P11 to P3. So I'd say that no matter how this race ends, I think the Bumblebee driver of the day will definitely be going today to Perlin 117 after such a display of determination and pit strategy. Very, very impressive to see today. Congratulations to RTR Perlin 117, who still go home with some kind of a victory. Although there are 10 minutes left in this race, so anything can still happen. He is still quite in close contention for P2, maybe even P1, depending on how this race turns out in the laps to come. Though with just about 10 minutes left in this race, I think that's going to be allowing just about 2 to 3 laps left, depending on when the leader finishes, when that timer ends. As the rules go, depending on where the leader ends, if he ends before the timer goes out, if the timer goes out before he finishes that last lap, then that would be the end of the race. However, if he's on another lap while the timer goes out, that would be the last lap for all the racers. RTR Tyke still about 22 seconds away from RTR Hutchinson in P1. Perlin 117 making slow progress in the final minutes, cutting that down from around 15, 16 seconds down to 12 seconds away from RTR Tyke. Love Cell still about 5 seconds away from Perlin 117, still trying to get back up there on the podium as well. Although if he does get up there behind Perlin 117, I'm sure Perlin is not going to make that easy for him. First of the Citroens, RTR Mad Max today in P5. Vornax just behind him in P6, as well as RTR ID78. There goes the Aston Martin of Mad John in P8 still. Dopey NOB pulling away even more there from Svendu in 26. May have been some spin outs or something that I didn't notice for Sven doing 26 is quite a big of a difference. So maybe a little bit of sliding here and there is probably due to that. Not to mention that Dopiano B would already have slightly fresher tires than Sven doing 26 as he did pit a few laps earlier than that McLaren. 8 minutes left in this race now, as RTR Adrian Senna goes on to begin what I believe is going to be lap 22 of this race session. See RTR Tyke now finishing his last lap there. On the same lap now as RTR Adrian Senna. Just over 7 minutes left in this race session. Airline 117 also finishing lap 21 onto lap 22 now. 10 seconds away from RTR Tyke now. Very, very impressive pace to see from this Ferrari driver. Loves hell as well, falling a little bit behind there from the last time we saw. I think for now he's going to be quite comfortably in P4. 20 seconds away, his only competition right now is going to be RTR Mad Max. 5 seconds away from him is going to be his fellow Citroen driver Vornax, still in ID 78. Vento in 26 falling back even a little bit more there from Del Piano being the McLaren. That's going to be about an 8-second gap now, as we just saw. RTR Tyke, our early leader of this race, dropping down to P2 ever since the first pit stop. Managing to hold on to P2 ever since that pit stop as well. RTR Adrian Senna with just over 4 minutes 30 seconds left in this race session. Possibly time for 1 or 2 more laps in this race. All depends on where this man finishes when that timer goes out. RTR Tyke in that Halloween livery. Not really chipping away from that time gap between himself and P1. Parallel 117 still putting down quite some impressive pacing there, still trying to chase down P2, although he is 9 seconds away with just over 4 minutes left in this session now. This may possibly be the final lap as we see RTR Adrian Senna go past the finish line on lap 23 now. Small amount of laps, but keep in mind this is just over a 13-kilometer track. So didn't exactly expect to see a high number of laps in an hour and a half long race. RTR Agent Zenna entering the first chicane after flying down that first straight of this track for what we are predicting may be the final lap of this race. RTR Tyke still going down that straight now. Same thing can be said for Parallel 117. Loves Hell just behind them. Dusty Trone still a little bit far behind there. RTR Tyke getting a little bit out of shape on that chicane. Not exactly entering the curve quite nicely there and getting a 1 second penalty for it, unfortunately. Decided to do some early braking and serve that penalty before he enters the chicane. That's going to cut down the gap actually from Parallel 117 from 9 seconds to about 6. So that's definitely going to be good news for Parallel 117 in the final moments of this race. See if it's going to be anything significant, as RTR H&N is just about done with this lap. Just over a minute and 10 seconds remaining. I wonder if he just have a few seconds left, RTR H&N may just even brake before the finish line, or he may force that next lap. May not be good for some racers in terms of tire management or fuel. Just about a second shaved off that gap now between P2 and P3 now. Parallel 117 giving everything he can, already flashing his lights even though he's 5 seconds away, trying to get any kind of reaction from RTR Tyke in that Lamborghini as Adrian Senna. RTR Adrian Senna is just about to finish this lap. Let's see if he forces yet again another lap. One way to find out. I think he will be forcing one final lap, as he did go past the finish line just about 4 seconds left. And this will be the final lap there, folks. That may be some sort of an opportunity with just about 5 seconds in between himself and P2 for Parallel 117. As RTR H and Senna did force that last lap. I was wondering if he would or not. Loves Hell 12 seconds away now there from Parallel 117. Though RTR Tyke has already gotten the checkered flag, so I think that's going to be it for these racers. No more opportunity, unfortunately, for Parallel 117, but it was a valiant effort. Got back up on the podium after spinning out on the first lap. What an amazing drive from this man here. RTR Tyke in P2, Loves Hell, claiming P4 as he goes past the finish line. RTR Mad Max just about to finish his final lap. He's going to be going home with P5, I believe, in just a few moments' time. RTR Mad Max in P5, Vornax in P6. Here comes ID78, the last of the Citroens, still finishing up his lap. as he passes that massive Porsche banner. See the Aston Martin in the background of his camera screen. RTR ID 78 just about to finish his lap. Lap 23 is going to be the final one for these racers here. Just over 2 minutes left of overflow time for the racer that's still finishing up this lap. P7, of course, for RTR ID 78. Mad John coming in just behind him in the Aston Martin in P8. Dopey NOB on his way to finish his final lap here as well. Dopey getting a chance to finish his last lap, flashing his lights as he comes around the finish line in P9, his first race with the main league, coming up from the secondary league. Good to have him here. Svenzu in 26 also about to finish his last lap of this race. Coming around there for P10. And RTR Adrian Senna, of course, celebrating ever so slight with just a minute left in this race. Donutting just before he goes past the finish line. No problem with having a little bit of fun just after the race is done. Sliding in with style past the finish line. Very, very impressive race to see yet again from all these racers here. Particularly amazed with the performance there of RTR Perlin 117 with that amazing charge to the field after his spin out on P1. Just before the results are gone, that's going to be the final results here, I believe, for all of us here who competed today. As you saw, of course, RTR Adrian Senna taking home P1, RTR Tyke with P2 in the Lamborghini. His fellow Ferrari driver of Senna, RTR Perlin 117, fighting all the way from the back of the pack, back up to the last podium position of P3, and also going home with a Bumblebee driver of the day, Lovesell in P4, just outside of the podium position contention, but his first race here with us. Pretty good for him today, adding another Ferrari to the roster. RTR Mad Max, Vornax, and RTR ID 78, the three Citroens, locking out P5, 6, and 7 respectively. Mad John in the only Aston Martin V8 Vantage, finishing off in P8. His fellow McLaren driver just behind him, Dopey NLB in P9. And Svenzu in 26 in the only Honda, the yellow Honda, finishing out in P10. Unfortunately, Lucas 22 did not get to finish, but I think he's still going to be going home with P12 depending on the regulations. And of course the best lap is going to be going to RTR Adrian Senna with the fastest lap time, of course an extra point as well. 3:47.963 was the time to beat here on this track today.
Well, what a race, folks. What a race indeed. We hope you guys enjoyed. It's quite a historical track of Circuit de los Arts, the Le Mans track. Very beautiful track, very historical track. Tons and tons of racing have been happening on these curves. So happy to add it to our list of the GR4 Championship with RTR Racing Community. If you wish to join us, make sure you check us out on Facebook as RTR Ready to Race Community, or even check us out on Instagram at Bumblebee Broadcasting. If you want to check that out, next race is going to be going on in about 2 weekends at the Red Bull Ring. Is going to be the next installment for the RTR GR4 Championship race. Thank you very much for tuning in there, folks. As usual, my name is Bumblebee, broadcasting all the way from Toronto, Canada. Happy to hear on with you. Happy to race and watch with you guys. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.